everybody. We are live and recording.
Everybody? Are we live? How do we know we're live? Oh, it's there.
Yes. So I am ridiculously excited. I apologize. I know we're a couple of minutes late. It's my fault because these amazing women are just so awesome and fun to talk to that I couldn't help it. I was a little selfish and I had some talk. I'm sorry, but I'm being good and I'm turning them over to you guys. So I am super, super excited as they don't even need an introduction from all the excitement in the comments I can see, but I'm going to give them one anyways. We have Shannon Dittemore. I want to make sure I pronounce it correctly.
Dittemore. It's easy.
Dittemore. Oh, yeah, that sounds way better. So we have Shannon Dittemore, and her new book is out, which is Winter, White, and Wicked. Look at the shiny cover. Oh. And it is so beautiful and such a good book. And I'm going to let them talk more about it and everything. And she is going to be talking about it with Stephanie Garber, who many of you are also familiar with. And Stephanie is an amazing host with amazing questions. Oh, look at that beautiful new copy of CARAVAL. Very pretty job with it. Indeed. Oh, the little lighting in and out. Okay. I will stop rambling, you guys. I'm sorry. I will let you have amazing conversations with them. And speaking of amazing conversations, if you have questions, right down there, the Vanna White section, as you know, where it says, ask a question. If you have questions, indeed, please ask them because they're here for you and questions are fun. So ask away. And also, putting on bookseller cap, oh, yeah. The best way to support an author is to purchase their book. Yeah. And if you want to purchase these amazing books, there is a buy book button down there, and Shannon will be personalizing book plates for you guys. And there's also a really cool poster. When you click on the link, you'll see like the art print. Oh, there we go. Yes.
I don't know how to do this, but I'm like, okay, so it's there somewhere. Oh, wait, I can back up.
Yes. Oh, perfect. So you will also get the art print with the book as well. Okay, I'm going to stop. I will leave you to these amazing women, and I will see you guys at the end of the event.
Bye, Constance.
Yay! Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm very glad to be here.
I know. It's fun doing it like here and like and it's fun doing it here. Okay, I am super excited to be hosting my good friend Shannon for the launch of her beautiful Winter, White, and Wicked. This book has one of my favorite pitches because I think it's like one of the most original pitches. It says Mad Max Fury Road meets Frozen. Yes. In a striking YA fantasy about a rig driver's journey to save her friend. Yay. So I think this is an awesome pitch. I love those comps. I would never imagine to put those comps together. And I'm really curious. Were either of those your inspiration, or did that come out after you'd written the book?
For sure, the Frozen comp was my inspiration, and that was because the idea landed in my head on the way home from Disneyland. And so when that happens, you feel like you go to Disneyland, and as an author, I'm always like, okay, I just want to look and I want to go home with an idea. And I remember being in the car right on the way home and like, I didn't really have an idea. And then all of a sudden on a 99, you know, Highway 99, you're surrounded by either cows or big rigs, and there are big rigs everywhere. And so these two ideas kind of collided. Like, what happens if you are, you know, an ice road trucker in a world where winter is enchanted and maybe winter has opinions on whether you're allowed to get somewhere. So initially the comps in my head were like Frozen meets Ice Road Truckers, which is like this documentary on the History Channel. And then I remember when I was trying to come up with the rig, like, how do I create this rig that is like, it had to be a character, right? And it had to get them somewhere in high style, and it had to have weird gadgets on it. And I wanted it to be something they could climb on. I wanted it to be something really active. And so I had seen that Mad Max Fury Road was playing on the television. And so I coerced my husband to sit down and watch with me. And that's where I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I'm going to do. It's going to be Mad Max Fury Road meets Frozen. And ta-da.
I love it. I also love, okay, so I'd heard Shannon talk about this book for a while. and she would always call it her Ice Road Trucker fantasy. And I didn't know Ice Road Truckers was actually a documentary.
It is. It's like ridiculous. It's on the History Channel, and I'd only really seen a commercial at that point. But then I did like get some episodes. I can't remember. I think you had to actually get the History Channel app. It was weird, but I did watch them, and it's fascinating. Sometimes they can only get, these truckers can only get to certain places when it's cold, like when the world freezes, so that they can drive on this, road that's normally a river or a part of an ocean, and it freezes over. And anyways, I found it very fascinating.
Oh my God. Well, I was going to ask you, have you driven a big rig or?
No. And if you have, and you catch any mistakes, I would like you to just not tell me. I have not driven.
So how did you do your research? Because it clearly sounds like you know a lot about it. I would have never known, like, oh, they wait for this river to turn into a road, which is fascinating and terrifying.
Right. I did some theater, so it's you act brilliant and then people just believe you. But no, I did a couple things. I watched a lot of Ice Road Truckers, but then I actually had reached out into a Facebook group that was a bunch of authors, and I asked them, I said, do any of you know, I wanted a truck driver, but not just a truck driver. I wanted a truck driver that was also a fiction writer, because I don't want a truck driver to just tell me that I was doing it wrong, because I knew I was doing it wrong, but I wanted him to understand what I was doing because he liked fiction and got it. And so, no joke, someone in the group pointed me to a guy named Wade, and I have no clue if Wade even knows that he's not a big Instagram dude, but he's a truck driver in Michigan, right? So they had inclement weather and snow, and he was fantastic. And without giving anything away, if you have gotten to the place in the book where the crew is on Sea Cliff Road, there is a dilemma that happens there, and they have got to solve the problem, and it involves the rig. And Wade was the one who provided the fix for me. So thank you, Wade. He also kind of checked up on some things for me as I went. But please, all the mistakes are my fault, not his. I've never made mistakes. They're not zero. Okay,
it's your world. Oh my gosh. Okay, I love this, and I love how you turn this into a fantasy.
Right.
And so the entirety of the book, for those of you who haven't read it yet, it takes place on the Isle of Lace, which is a fantastic name. I just love all your names. And it's an island cursed by eternal winter.
Yes.
But winter is only one obstacle on these treacherous roads. So how did you go about this world building, from taking what's in our world and creating this amazing fantasy world?
Right. I think one of the easiest things for me is that because I'm a discovery writer, I want to kind of figure out the answer to the problem as I write. And so probably the way I write almost any book is to just start and give my character obstacles as I go along. And so this was ideal for that, because I just put them on the road and I continually created obstacles. And especially for drafting, it took me a bit because I was not fully committed to the book at first, but it became very simple once I had this ugly map. If you guys go to my Instagram, you can see my original map that I had drawn. But once I had this original map drawn that I sketched out, it was really easy to move from one obstacle to another. So I'm brainstorming those. I got some ideas from Maestra Truckers. Look, the map.
This is the finished one.
Right. I did not draw this. They hired someone who was amazing. Yvonne Gilbert drew that. I drew a ridiculous, I don't even know where it is, but it's on construction paper or something. So yeah, no, they wouldn't put that in a book.
Oh, nice. Okay. So nearly every endorsement and trade review that you've received calls this book unique or original. I'm going to read just a couple before I get the question. So the School Library Journal says, a truly unique tale that will leave readers shivering with anticipation for the next installment.
I like that one.
And then I do too. And then the Bulletin for the Center of Children's Literature. That name always trips me
out. It's so long.
Really long. The mythology is uniquely crafted, and the vivid descriptions could bring frost to the pages. Readers will want to hitch onto this propulsive, adrenaline-fueled ride through a dangerously thrilling and chilling landscape.
It's almost like I paid them for that review.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
It is really awesome. So,
right.
Were you surprised when they called this unique? Why do you think they said that about this?
I guess I don't know if I was surprised but it's so weird, right? I'm always surprised that people are like, I really liked your book. And I'm like, really? Because it's a weirdo Ice Road Truckers fantasy. I added magic to a documentary, and we're going to call it a story. Yeah. So I'm not surprised that people say that, but I think I'm more surprised that people get on board for it, And so, but I do appreciate, I think there is always this idea, right, in the back of your head that you want to be original. You don't want to do the same thing everyone else has done. But I really like fantasy, and I like magic, and I wanted an opportunity to do that. And so this felt like an opportunity, even just out of the gate. It felt like something that was different and unique to me, and whether or not, you know, that was going to come across to others, you know, I didn't know, but I am glad you guys are reading it. Thank you.
I think it's definitely unique, and even just the way you write is just so beautiful and like not quite what you would expect to go with like big rig trucking, which I love because it's these gorgeous, lovely prose that fits so well with this world of winter. Okay,
I paid her too.
So there's definitely some romance in this book. Fantasy with the side of romance. It's not like the driving force, but it's definitely there. So I'd love to know, because I love romance, how you approach writing romance.
I think part of it is what I like. Like when I sit down to watch a movie, or read a book, I always hope there's going to be some kind of romance in it, but that's not why I picked up the book. I usually pick up the book because I want an adventure and I want to escape. And so, but I also feel like romance is kind of just, it's part of life. It's part of most characters, especially teens. And we're writing for teens and we're writing about teenagers. And so to totally avoid that part of their life feels dishonest, right? Or tricky. And I don't feel so. And I feel like, let's just be honest, you're cramming people in a rig and they've got to travel across an aisle. And, you know, just like I learned this in youth group, you know, there's a 6-inch rule. The closer you are to someone, romance is going to develop. And so I thought it was important to include it.
I've been told like the key to romance is just like put your characters in like smaller and smaller spaces. Like,
it's true.
Them. So like, you know, I totally am with the whole idea of like you put them in like,
trap them together.
Yeah.
Right? Give them one bed. Like,
yes.
There's always the one. I think someone else. I know someone who's done that really well.
There's a reason the one bed works.
It does.
Like we all are here for it.
Because you all have to. It's conflicting every time. It's like, what do we do with the bed? Who sleeps on the floor? Does someone have to sleep on the floor? Do we sleep toe to heel? Or what? It's like it's complicated every single time. I love it.
Okay, so every book has its challenges. What was the most challenging aspect of writing this book?
I think so for me, like I said, they're in the rig a lot. And so always the challenge is I want to develop this world. I want to create the world where winter has really kind of left her fingerprints on everything and the people are affected. And so doing all of that and trying to show that to the reader while you are in a rig is like, it's challenging. And you don't want to be like, get formulaic, right? Where it's like, stop, learn something about the world, get back in and move. And to an extent, that's what you end up with, honestly. But you want to try and do it in flashbacks. And so that was the hardest part. How do I make this world real and these characters existing outside of this cab, right? Outside of the cab of this truck. So that was challenging.
Sorry.
Are you laughing
at the comment?
No, oh wait,
I hold it back. I was trying to hold it.
I know, Constance has been to youth group. I know.
I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm trying. Like everything you were saying was great, and I was like, I can't laugh.
I'm so sorry. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh yes, I am so glad Constance is doing this with us. I love it. I'm like, laughing. No, I'm completely. But it's, you know, there's youth group folks here. They get it.
You know. Yep. So what was your favorite? What was your, like, going on the opposite end? What was your favorite part? And also, just kind of not attached to that, do you really love winter? Because I feel like I don't love winter, and that kind of made me love it.
So I think that the best part is that I think winter's beautiful, and as an aesthetic. I mean, you can't beat like white and sparkle. I mean, you know, like white and sparkles, and you throw some silver in, and it's just gorgeous. So I love how it looks, but I am a California girl in my soul, and I am from the Valley, so I get pretty much the same thing almost. I mean, we get warm weather, and then we get cold weather, and we don't even have tons of fall. We've got a little bit of it, but
and I think some people would say our weather's not even cold.
Right. Absolutely. Right. If we get down to freezing, if we get down to 32, that's rough. Like we've got to like de-ice our cars in the morning. So look at, they all know. The minute you bring up youth groups, the horror stories, everyone's like, yes, I know. No, but yeah, no. So I don't love being cold. I hate being cold. I hate it. And so being able to kind of include some of my hatred for winter in there was fun too.
But also just like winter is a great also like device for romance too, because it really does make you huddle together, going back to all that.
Right. And they are very close, and you know.
Okay, so let's ask some writing questions.
Okay.
Okay, so I like one of the things that I think would be interesting for listeners and I want to know about too is I always love people's journey to publishing, but you have like I know for me it took me like 7 years or something like that when I started writing to when CARAVAL published.
Wow.
Yeah. And
was that the beginning of CARAVAL or just starting period?
I started in 2008.
Okay.
CARAVAL sold in 2015, published in 2017.
I feel so much better right now. I do. I feel good at this moment. I don't think I did that.
But then you have a different journey, but I think it's the kind you don't hear about as often because you had books come out and then it's been 7 years in between.
Right.
So can you talk about that?
Yeah. Everyone keeps calling me a debut because it's been that long since my book has been on the shelf. But the truth is I've had 3 books on the shelf for a while now. My first book came out in 2012, and then I wrote 2 books super quick, and they came out in 2013. Kids, don't do that. Give me a call. Let me talk to you about publishing a little bit. But yeah, I had 3 books come out in 2012 and 2013, and you sort of feel like out of the gate, like coyly into, you know what I mean? It was and Angel Eyes was my first book. It was my debut novel, and it was the first book I'd ever completed. Ever. It was the first book I'd written more than like 2 chapters on. So you feel like, man, I must be really good at this. I like my first book and, everyone's telling me they've written 5 or 6. But I have this theory because I think that if you don't go through kind of the bumps and bruises up front about trying to figure out, one, what do you want to write? What's your audience even going to look like? What does the market look like for what you're writing and for what you want to write? And how do you get where you want to go? If you don't have those bumps kind of up front, I think you're going to run into them later.
Can I pause? I feel like if you want to write, those are all really good questions.
They are.
You should write those down.
You should.
I think they're
right.
Those are really critical questions.
And they are. And I didn't really ask myself that up front. Like I said, I'm a discovery writer, and I literally came up with an idea I wanted to, and I just started writing to discover where it went. And it worked well for me. And I love that book. I love that series. I even really liked the publisher I was with at the time. So, but I think if you don't go through it up front, guess what? You're going to run into it. So I had 3 books come out, and I thought for sure they were going to want my next book. I mean, wasn't I amazing? And didn't I have all the ideas? But, Christian bookstores, it was with a Christian publisher. They were closing down. There wasn't shelf space. My publisher had gotten bought out. Oh, man. I get one typo, right? My publisher had gotten bought out by HarperCollins at the time. So they were all shifting around, and you can't plan for that. You have no idea what's going to happen. So thank you. I appreciate it, Kristen and Adrian. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. But yeah, I think you're gonna, get your scrapes somewhere. And so for me, after those books came out, one, I was a very young mom. And so young mamas, you can do it. I was a very young mom when those 3 books came out. And the next several years was me figuring it out, like figuring out what I want to write. And I wrote another book, which if there's anyone watching that's interested in buying a murder mystery with nanotech, you let me know, because I have one. I wrote a whole other book that went out on Sub, and we got close, but we never sold it. And then I had to write again. And that's when I was on Sub with that book when I got the idea for when I had the Disneyland trip, the fated Disneyland trip, where I came up with the idea for Winter, White, and Wicked. So, I mean, you just go through it. It's if you're in the struggling point, viewers, readers, we all go through it. Don't you think?
Oh yeah. I mean, I had written 5 books before CARAVAL.
See?
And I'm really glad all those books were super different. My first was like a fantasy trilogy, Portal. And then I had a sci-fi trilogy about killer clones.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I really liked that. It was terrible. It was horrible. It had a horrible ending. And then I wrote a space pirate fantasy.
I want to write a space pirate fantasy.
They were fun, but you can see none of them went together. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of
you're feeling your way
through.
This
sounds fun. But I have taken little pieces from those books.
Right.
So, but I think, you gotta go through it at some point.
You do. You have to. I just think you just have to.
Okay, for timing wise,
I have no idea what time. Okay.
No, I was thinking when was the fateful trip to Disneyland? Just to give people a view of how long that took.
Everything magical for me happened in November, except for this release, which is October. But it was November of 2015.
Okay.
And so then it took me a bit to write. And because I am horrible at timing, every time I was ready to send it to my agent, she was like having a baby or she was on, you know what I mean? It was like the word. So like there was some delays in there that weren't really initiated from me, some downtime. And then, so it took a bit. Then I would get notes from her and make adjustments, send it back. And then she's like having a baby. And so then I'm waiting again. So it took a bit to just kind of get it in shape where we sent it out on submission. And then in November of, is Emily here? Emily, are you here? My editor, she said she was going to stop by. In November of 2018, Emily DeLuga of Abrams Kids, Amulet is the imprint. She made an offer for Windsor White and Wicked. And I legitimately feel like I found the absolute perfect editor for this book. Emily! Emily's the perfect editor. And I think, Emily, do you want a bunch of submissions? Because I feel like everyone should submit all of their books to Emily because she's amazing. And I feel like she genuinely made my book better, and she's really, really clever. And you need that when you are writing a ice road trucker fantasy. Clever is important.
I love that. I love that story.
Yeah.
And I think it's great too because it shows like how things can happen very fast,
right?
And they can slow, and that it's, I don't know. I just like to always think of publishing. It's just a long game. Like it's
it is
being committed.
Oh, speaking of, I think I met Steph. I think we met at Zocalo's because we always go to Zocalo's before we have dinner there in town. And I miss all my Zocalo's friends. If you're here, we miss you. But I met Steph at Zocalo's, and I think your book was still called something else. Caraval.
It might have been. I mean, it sold under a different name.
Have we talked about that?
Oh yeah, it's out there.
Okay, good. I didn't want to, but I think it was like Hearts Made of Black or something. And I was like, this is amazing. But she was like on sub, or no, you weren't even. I think you were still working on it. And then like several weeks later, we met at Jessica Taylor's house. I think Jessica Taylor's here somewhere. We met again at Jessica Taylor's house, and we were both out on sub. And I was out on sub with my nanotech murder mystery, and she was already at auction with Caraval. So if you have friends who are ahead of you, be a little bit jealous, but be nice. It'll happen for you at some point.
But I had like 7 years of
right. See, that's the thing. You only see the end splash, right? Yeah. But there's a lot of toil that goes into it. And my poor family, God bless them, they put up with a lot of me locking myself away in here and not making any money from it. So it takes time.
So thinking on that, like if you could go back to the beginning of your writing journey, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, I heard this piece of advice 100 million years ago, and it was when I first started, and I hated it. And it was settle in for the long haul. And I thought, I want everything to happen really fast. I do everything fast in this world. If our world, what's that movie where it's talking this? I'm not going to be good at this. I went on a side track. Anyways, I do everything very quickly. And so, except writing, apparently, except writing in a pandemic, but I do things pretty fast. And the idea that that it was going to take some time to break in was terrifying to me. And so I didn't like that, but I think it's true. I think if you're going to do this, it's probably not going to happen tomorrow. Even the stories, the overnight successes that you hear, like you're only hearing the very end of that. A lot of them started and have been working forever and ever before it happened. And if you are lucky enough to have an overnight success, I mean, it's really rare. So anyways, that's what I think. Settle in for the long haul. It's going to take a bit.
I think that's good advice.
Okay, good.
Okay, so for what is your writing process now? Do you keep a schedule? Has COVID changed how you work?
Oh yeah, COVID makes it harder because I'm never quite sure I'm never quite sure what the day is going to look like. My kids are back at school now, which is helpful. But yeah, now once my kids got old enough, mamas, when your kids get to first grade, life is going to get a lot easier for you if you send them to school. So my kids, once they got into first grade, and they're about 4 years apart, my children, but once the last one was in first grade, my writing just looked totally different because up until then I was only writing on nap times or after they went to bed. And then once they got into school, I remember telling my agent, look, if I can't finish the book now, then it's on me because I have plenty of time. So I would have 6 hours a day to work on it. And sometimes that was while I was sitting in a car, waiting for my kids to get out of school. Sometimes I would take my laptop or my notebook and do it then. But yeah, I mean, it changes. So now I try to keep a schedule where I work Monday. I work while the kids are in school. And then I try to be very present when they're home. they give me days sometimes. Like I had something I had to work on, a pitch I had to work on for my publishing house. And I had to work over the weekend, and they were very kind and left me alone to do that. But I try, now that they're older and I really can work during their school day, I try to give them my weekends. Yeah.
What about like with your writing process? Like you talked about being a discovery writer. So like for people who might not know, or even because I think there are different ways to be a discovery writer. What does that look like for you? Like how much do you start with? Is there a point where it's like if you have too much figured out, you can't write it? Like what does that look like?
Well, you know, I was actually thinking about when you said that, I was thinking about Adrienne Young had said something on one of her IG live. I don't know. I think it was an IG live recently where she said if she doesn't live with the book long enough before she starts to write, it can be problematic. You can get yourself into trouble. Hi, Adrienne. You can get yourself into trouble writing. And so I feel that a little bit. But I have a tendency to barrel headlong into it. And just as soon as I have an idea and I live with that character enough, I even will just start journaling. I'll just open up the computer and just like free write and set a timer. I'm big on Word Sprints. That's pretty much how I write a book. Do you do that a lot? No. So Word Sprints, for those that don't know, is when you set a timer for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes and you just start writing and you don't stop to edit. You just, maybe you have a couple ideas you've jotted down about where you're going to go next and you just go there and you don't worry about too much of it, but it helps you move through. For me, it helps me move forward, especially if I'm stuck. And so a lot of times I will just word sprint my way through. And then at some point when I have enough, when I know my character and I know the world enough, I will put together a very simple synopsis. And that's basically just a summary. It's actually a publishing document where we have rules about how we put it together, but it's basically a synopsis. And I put that together and I always do it when I'm like maybe 6 or 7 chapters in. I don't know. A lot of people do it at the end or at the very beginning, but I need to have a little bit in my head. Then I write it and I kind of give myself a beginning, middle, and end. And I make myself write them, even if I'm not going to use those beats later, but I write them. And then I use that as my outline.
That's so interesting.
And then I sprint my way through that. That's what I do.
I can't do sprints because I will just like start making up random crap.
Okay, so you've got to have a skeleton.
Well, I do like my equivalent is like because I can't write everything by hand. So like I take my notebook and I'm slower. Like you can't go back and edit, which is great, but it's like so you have it. So it's like I'm forced to be a little slower and I'm not looking at the word count. So I really am thinking about the content. But like if it's a sprint, I'm like I get that competitive and I'm like, oh my gosh,
I just have to get the words in.
Yeah, and then they're gonna be aliens, and then they're gonna start vomiting, and there's this new whatever. Like I will just start putting stuff. So like, I
will say this: when I first started, it was all about how many words I could get in at a time. Especially if you're sprinting with someone else, like you're online at Twitter and we're updating each other on our word sprints. I don't want to say I've grown past that because that still has value, especially if you're needing inspiration. But now I don't really care about the number, the words I get in. It's more like I have been writing the scene for 14 days. And if somebody would just make me do it, I will get through it. And so I set the timer and I force myself to write. So it's more about just making progress for me. And I don't really care about the numbers. So,
and I think that's smart. I like used to keep track of my numbers until someone else was like, why that's stupid.
Right.
And I was like, what?
National Novel Writing Month is amazing. And it's so helpful, especially if you're new, but it can get you thinking about numbers.
Yeah. Cause I think it is more important to think like, okay, have I moved the story forward today?
Right.
Has there been character development?
Right.
Have I done a surprise? You know, like have I added aliens to the books?
Absolutely. Because aliens are very important.
I just keep seeing aliens.
They're waiting for you to have your next book announcement.
I'm not going to.
The alien romance. It's an alien romance.
I don't think aliens are my thing.
But you tried. No?
No. They were like not aliens. It was like a space opera, but it was like very fantasy. Like they went to the different.
Okay, so all people.
Yeah, it was all people. Like there were no creatures. It was just like, it was kind of the equivalent to just a fantasy in space where they go to a different planet and like, there was like a cannibal planet where like.
Really? Who's going to be like, write this?
The red sun would rise, and when it rose, people would just randomly become cannibals.
Oh, it kind of reminds me of
It was like zombies, but cannibals. Like you didn't know who was going to become a cannibal.
It could be anybody,
and everybody lived in trees, and they would like get rid of their like ladders.
Do they look like Wookiees?
No, it would be like
it would be like
it'd be like us. Like the red sun comes up, and then suddenly I'm a cannibal.
I can do that. That's like a treehouse. It's like an adventure.
It's terrible.
I love it.
This is really disturbing and twisted.
Yes, constant cannibal zombie space pirates. Yes, with romance. Steph doesn't write things without kissing. There has to be kissing.
I like the kissing
Right.
a lot.
She does it well.
Thank you. Okay, so if readers take away one thing from this book, I just like holding it up because
I know, it's so
it is
shiny.
the prettiest.
It actually changes the color of the room.
I know. If you haven't gotten your copy yet, like it just affects.
Right.
Like, Abrams is awesome.
Abrams is amazing at covers. Absolutely. And my cover, I'm going to tell you, my cover designer was Hana. Anouk Nakamura. And if I did that wrong, Emily, don't tell her. I'm sorry, I tried. And then she's amazing. I love her. And then they hired an artist named Reuben Ireland to draw the cover, and he's amazing. I want him to draw everything I do.
And I love like the effects on the
They
pages.
did, and it's like, if you read it, it's like the coldest. Right?
I think I said that too quietly, but the effects, like I'm such a sucker for these things. But my question isn't actually about how pretty the cover is or the effects. My question is, if readers take away one thing from this book, what do you hope that is?
It's funny because I know we talked about this, but I'm like, I have a question. I think there's a line in the book, and one character says to somebody else, it's the words. The power is in the words. And I think for a long time, I felt like I had lost my voice. And I don't even really know that it was related to writing. It just was in life. I felt like so many things were going on in the world. And this was a long time ago, but I feel like I don't even know what to say, right? Like, even if I knew what to say, then I don't know that I would say it well. And I just think that, I think you're kind of seeing that in this generation. There's been a rising up, people using their words and using their voice. And I think probably you asked about my favorite moment. I don't know if I skipped that answer or not, but there's a moment where Sylvie figures out she's strong and that she has power. And I love that moment in any story where your main character rises up and understands who they are and what they're capable of. And so I think that's what I would tell a teenager reading my book, or an adult, or anyone. Like, you are use your words. They have power. Speak truth, speak light. Yeah, if they walk away with that, I would be very happy.
That's a good walk away. Okay, so I think those are my questions, which means we can go to the ask a question. So you guys can keep asking questions. We're gonna go through and ask them.
Oh, they popped. Okay, so you guys can vote on questions. This is fantastic.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That is really awesome.
I'm sorry, I'm reading them to myself, which is not helping you guys at all. The first one says, when you've had your previous books denied by agents or publishers, do they stay on your back burner to return to later, or do you scrap them and keep moving forward? Where is your alien book right now? Your space. Do you scrap it?
I scrap things. I'm just like, even the book I'm writing now, I had talked to a different editor I talked to my editor about a different book. Like, that's what I was writing.
Right.
I was writing it for 2 months, and then this book, all the pieces came together, and I became obsessed, and I just moved on to this and scrapped that. So I'm a big believer in
knowing when it's not working.
Yeah, and even my books, the 5 that I wrote before that didn't sell, I think or didn't get agents. I tried, and once it didn't work, I just moved on.
Right.
You can revise forever and ever.
Right. But if the idea isn't selling, the idea isn't selling.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe the hardest thing, is sometimes you love something. And that really was challenging with Winter, because the idea itself is weird, right? I mean, we had a lot of it's fantasy and it's kind of cool, but it's a truck. What do we do with that? So sometimes the idea just is a hard sell. So I think I'm similar. I think, like Steph said, when the minute you've submitted it to an agent or an editor, it kind of feels a little bit I don't know, if they say no, if they say this isn't one agent or editor, but if it's an agent or editor you're currently working with, and they kind of say it's not the idea, it's hard to come back to that with clean eyes or clear eyes, and a good vision, because you feel bad about that idea already. For me, so I have set some aside. The only one I've really held on to is the one I always try. The one I'm constantly pitching to random people about, the nanotech murder mystery. But most of them I do set aside. Yeah, you shouldn't be afraid.
I was going to try and scroll through the questions, but your mouse is strange to me.
It is a weird mouse. I won't show you. You can't see it. Oh, somebody else got 5. I'd love to hear more about the evolution of the cover design. How much? None. I had 0 input. But you know what? They did it without me. They wanted to know how much input I had on the cover. They did send me when they had initial sketches of Sylvie, who's the main character on the cover. And I loved it. And so then they moved forward with Ruben and, gave him notes and stuff. I think we had a couple different edits here and there. Like, I don't know if you can see the cover close up in her eyes. Her eyes are the lovely silver color, but then on the whites of her eyes, there's like little black coal dust. And that was really important to the story. And so I was able to like, hey, we need to, add that. So that was my input, little tiny bits of corrections. And that was it. But they didn't need me. They pulled it right out of my head. And I was so grateful. Do you have a lot of input on your cover design?
I have like this next cover I've gotten like the most input for, which I haven't seen the new cover, but like for this cover I had like a ton of input on this one.
It's so pretty. You guys, I don't even think I can like it feels like a substantial book. Like this is an important book when you touch it, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, like I suggested, I actually got the idea from someone else though. I was like, what if we put a ticket inside the book?
It's perfect. It's so perfect.
So I got a lot. I've gotten more. Like at first I didn't have, but they've been really great about giving.
Oh, did we tell you how we're giving this away? I don't even know if we did. It's
we did.
We didn't. Oh, so we are giving this away. We're gonna give this one right here. But you have to like. It's gonna be a random commenter. So the more comments you send in, the better. This is us manipulating you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we meant to do it at the beginning, but we just were like so excited. We're talking to Constant and having so much fun.
Right.
And then we just forgot about the giveaway. And,
right.
Like this cover is just so shiny that I just want to hold it.
But we are giving away CARAVAL. So look at now they're going crazy. Great. We're never going to be able to read any of the comments. It's amazing.
I love this. Okay. So
now that they're all distracted. Okay, I answered that one already. Difficult. The most difficult part of creating Winter was probably keeping the momentum moving forward while keeping my characters moving forward.
What about creating Winter?
Not the actual winter. She was really natural to me. I think because we all have a voice in our head, right? That is constantly tempting us to do random things.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing at you. I'm laughing at all the comments.
But we always have this voice in our head, and so that was easy to draw from. Yeah, I liked Winter. Winter's fun. I enjoy writing her a lot. Probably the most fun character. I didn't answer this, but I really enjoyed writing Mars, right? Mars is a ton of fun. So when you get to read, I loved writing Mars because his dialogue just came so easy and he's snarky and there's very few things that he won't do or say. So I enjoyed him, but Winter was an easy write too.
Mars is such a great name too.
Yeah, it's fun. You know what the trick is with Mars though, like as a writer, is that it ends with an S. So everything is the extra apostrophe S, or like half the book, you don't do it that way. You do it a different way, and you have to correct it.
Yeah, there were 4 characters in the book I'm writing now.
Oh yeah,
with S,
right.
And I'm like,
no, it's a rough because it's like too many. Now, does your publisher do the extra apostrophe S?
Yes, right. The extra. That's what my copy editor does, which makes it easier for me because it's just the apostrophe. I would.
Right.
But anyways, just for people, if you're thinking about it, I mean, I love names that ends with S, but. Your life is so much easier if you don't.
If you don't
do it.
Actually, for the longest time, I thought I'm gonna have to change this name. But then the longer I kept writing, I was like, his name is Mars. Like I can't change his name. That's what his name is.
I know. I was like, I shouldn't use this name. It has an S. Nope. Oh, I'm gonna add another S.
Right.
Another S name. Just keep doing it.
Okay. It's the romance of the S.
It is. Okay.
Oh, I knew. That's a good question. Did you create multiple versions of your plot or stick to one? No, because of the way I write is I mean, another word for a discovery writer, we say pantser, you're writing by the seat of your pants. Or I think Brandon Sanderson calls it a multi-drafter. Oh, I don't know. But for me, I'm constantly like course correcting. Like I'll go this way and this way. So if I ever had a different version of the plot, it got eaten up. It got eaten up. Man, 2 typos. It got eaten up in just the process. It got either moved to a cuts document at some point along the way, or I just assimilated it into my story. So no, I don't create multiple versions of my plots. I just edit the heck out of it when I'm done.
I create multiple versions.
Do you really?
Which I don't recommend. Yes, I do.
What do you consider yourself? Like a pantser plotter? Do you have a name for what you do?
I have become more of a plotter, but it's very much like
I think we all do, right?
Yeah. But I look at it kind of like I'm like a fortune teller.
Oh, I like this. Please
where
tell me
it's
more.
like your future could go this way or this way or this way. Like it is not clear yet, but it depends on what will happen
in the future.
Okay.
So it's like, do you have all of these ideas in your head?
I write them on index cards.
Oh yes, and I've seen them. I have seen her index cards. She has a living room full of them. So probably in other rooms too.
Because it was like, I like to know how it starts. Like I have like, this is how it starts. And a lot of times, like for the book I'm writing now, it's like, this is how it starts. And I knew, no, I didn't know how it ends. No, I didn't. Because I was like, but it could go this way, this way, or this way. Like
you're always at the fork in the road.
Mysteries that like I couldn't decide on as I was writing. Like it could be this or this or this. So and the same with CARAVAL, where it was like, but it's like I have an idea of what those are. So it's like and at some point I have to make a decision.
Right. Like if I go this way, my end is gonna end up being here.
Yeah.
And if I go this way, it'll look this way. Right.
It's kind of like if you're like a teenager trying to decide on college. Like your life could look like this if you go here or here or here. Like San Diego is gonna be really different than New York.
Right. So one of them gets snow, one does not.
Yes, exactly.
Right. No, I think my brain gets to those moments and then I'm forced, like I will just decide, I'll do a word sprint and I'll see what my gut says, right? My instinct will take me one direction. Sometimes, your instinct takes you wrong and you got to change and edit, but I definitely don't develop full plots. That would scare me.
I'll develop it and it's like pretty quick, but then when I I use Anatomy of Story by John Truby a lot.
Oh yeah, I've heard the good things. I haven't read it.
I really like it, but it's like I have to write a certain amount and like not quite knowing everything. And then when I get to a certain point, then I can use that. But that book's like super intense. You have to know quite a bit about your story. For me, at least before. Like
interesting.
So,
I'll have to try it.
Yeah. So it's like I'll figure some stuff out and I won't know. And then it's like I'm constantly replotting. So similar to like how you're like, and then it feeds in. So it's like,
do you feel like you're writing to discover the story? Or no?
I'm not writing to discover the story. More like the world. Like the world is the part that changes probably more the most. Like, my world. Like it's so
right.
Yeah,
writing is so fun. And we all do it so different. It is. And there's no one way, which is why I love it.
Yes.
Okay. What else do we have here?
Ooh, I like that one up there about the happy versus ambiguous. And
where am I at?
Oh. That had 7 votes.
It did have a lot of votes. Are you guys saying something to me? In your stories, it says, do you prefer happy or ambiguous endings? And this is from Olivia. Somebody asked who the author was.
Oh, yeah,
it is Olivia. Hi, Olivia. I don't know. Do you have an easy answer to that? I mean, I'm always happy. I don't want to be like, I don't know if I want happy. I want an appropriate ending. I want a well-earned ending. If you, if you give me an ending that those characters on that page in that world did not earn, I'm going to be frustrated.
Game of Thrones.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. I mean,
but no, because if it is the right like ending, like I love a happy ending, but also like I always think of Inception, which is such like an ambiguous ending, and I love it.
My son, it's his favorite. He's gonna be so happy.
Yeah, it's such a great ending. So I think it is the appropriate ending.
Right.
Like
some things are. I think the movie has to, or movie. I say movie book story has to be like super special to be able to get away with the ambiguous ending.
Yeah.
I mean, the writing has to just be spot on because most people expect you make a promise to the reader, right? Like, I'm going to tell you a story and I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to give you the solution to this big story problem. And so you want to do that in some way. I hope so.
I just watched, how many of you guys have seen The Good Place?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I just finished season 4. Oh my gosh, I was so happy because it felt very full circle. So I love those endings where it's like you get to the end and it feels so true to the beginning.
Right.
And so I really, but you also got me somewhere different.
And it's different than saying you wrapped it up with a bow, right? Yeah. Taking something full circle is it takes you back to where you laid the foundation, which I think is important. Trying to make something super pretty at the end that wasn't earned is rough, man. I mean, we've all seen that. We've all had those stories where I'm like, well, that was very simple and easy and not earned at all. So
I see it like this. Okay. And this is going to like really date me and say a lot like that. I'm kind of embarrassed, but whatever.
We are old and we're okay with that.
Yeah. And so when I was younger, which was the only time I ever played video games because I'm terrible about it. It was very like Mario. Like those were the video games I played or like Zelda or whatever.
Duck Hunt.
And we didn't have the gun. We just borrowed them from the neighbors. We didn't have any games at my house. But I always think of it like this. Like you go to the next level.
Okay.
It's like the next level, and like you're not playing Mario, and then at the end you end up in Zelda.
Right.
Like it's a different level. It's a different level of the same thing.
Right.
So I think it's like it should always feel like it's the same part of the game, but just a different level.
It's growing on what is there before.
Yes. And if you switch, like if Mario becomes Duck Hunt, then
Right. Then
It
it's
just
very,
doesn't
no. And then it's over and it's like the end and you're like, I didn't end anything. And that is the one thing you do not want readers walking away with, like feeling like they did not actually get to the end of your story.
So,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, I did what gave me the idea. So I'm going to skip that one, but thank you, Megan, for setting it in. How do you balance by hand? Oh, and computer-based writing.
Ooh, okay. So I like usually, because I just got in the habit of writing everything by hand, I'll just write it by hand and then I type it right up.
Okay.
And then sometimes I do always have like a notebook, so
Yes.
I might like write a couple sentences by hand and then type it up. So
right.
It's not like I write the whole thing by hand. Like I might write, it might be anywhere from a scene to a chapter.
Do you find when you move it from paper to the screen that you're making adjustments?
Not usually.
Really?
First, I just straight up get it out, and then
you
because a lot of times as I'm typing, I don't remember what goes, and if I try to make adjustments,
right,
and then
it's so interesting though, because I feel like for me the keyboard it's part of my process. Is that so weird? Like I think this makes my brain go. Like if I'm not sitting in front of my keyboard, I'm like I don't know, I gotta work it out. I can't. And sometimes like a notebook will work, but I said I was old and I have bad fingers, so I need the typewriter's easier. Typewriter, not that old. The keyboard is so much easier than handwriting for me, and I need the movement. But so when you're writing by hand, is that when the idea?
Yes, that is. Okay. Well, and I think the keyboard, I just get so it's easy for me to get perfectionist, and I can waste a lot of time on thesaurus.com.
Right. Oh God, thesaurus.
And things like that. So I will print things up a lot. It's just easier for me part of it I think is the distraction thing.
Right. No, I agree. I just saw somebody say Jenny Lundquist is a superhero. She totally is, and I think she has school tonight, so I don't think she's here. But Jenny Lundquist she's a writer. She's one of our friends. She's also local, and she writes. I know everyone's talking about her now. She writes middle grade and YA. She's an amazing middle grade that she just finished, and I love her stuff. But she writes everything by hand first, in a journal. She buys those moleskin journals and writes it by hand, and then moves it. I don't even know. I can't fathom because my fingers start to hurt when I talk about it. We have so many questions. We are not going to get to.
I'm reading through the comments, and they're so great.
Okay, you look at those, and I'm going to look at the questions.
These are all just great. Okay. I love the Jenny fan.
They're like, we're just going to yell Jenny because then we're going to get more comments. Jenny is awesome. Jenny was my very first writer friend. Well, who wrote Kidlit? I've met other people. I know. She's saved me. Okay. I can't answer that question. I just don't want to. I actually want to be mysterious about whether or not my movie has been optioned for film. I have no answer to that question. Oh, somebody asked about beta readers. Do I use critique partners or beta readers? I do. I use beta readers after I have my book where I think it's as good as I can do on my own. That's the first time I let anyone else read it. And then it goes to usually Jenny Lundquist, Jill Williamson. Is Jill here? I don't even know if she's here. And Stephanie Morrill, who are my go-to writers girls. Hi, Joanna. They really usually read first for me. My nanotech murder mystery that I would love to sell to one of you. I actually found Jason Joyner. I don't know if he's here either, but Jason Joyner is a doctor, or he works in a medical facility, of that I'm certain. And they had nanotech there. So he was a fantastic reader for that because he knew how they used it and stuff. So anyways, I try to find people that either really like me enough to not destroy me on my early drafts, or somebody that has some understanding of what's going on in the book.
I think that's smart. I'm also going to cut in because I put SCBWI with a question mark.
Oh yeah.
It's the longest acronym. Yeah. So SCBWI is the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators.
Right.
And I was a member of it for a long time.
I've never actually paid the membership dues, but I went to Spring Spirit here in Rockland, California, and that is where I met Jenny, and I went together, and that's where I met Joanna and Jessica Taylor. Joanna Rowland, I'm sorry. She's a picture book author, amazing. Jessica Taylor and Heather Shalais.
So it's a great organization if you're starting out. I made a lot of friends through it. And they are for picture book writers and illustrators, middle grade up to YA. Right. So I really recommend, I won't go into too much, but look it up. They usually have local chapters.
Yeah, and if your local chapter is active, it really makes all the difference. I think several other girls in our group, none of us all trained manuscripts. We mostly just go to dinner. That's what we do. We just encourage each other and go to dinner. But some of the girls, we don't have any guys. No. what is wrong with us? We don't have any good. But some of the girls are very active in STBWI, but
yeah, I'm just looking because like Victoria.
Hi, Victoria.
That's how I met her.
Really? At the big one?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to go to the big one sometime.
So it's great, especially if you're looking to meet people and connect. So I highly recommend it.
I'm so glad Victoria's here.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We're talking to our friend. We can answer this one. Has the pandemic made you more or less motivated to write? It's hard. It's hard. It's been challenging. And you would think in my head initially, I was telling Steph, you think, you know what? Everyone's struggling, but I am better than this. I am bigger. I am going to get my book. I'm going to be ahead. And I just have not. It's been a little bit rough. I've gotten certain things done, but it's been hard.
I've actually been more motivated. But I mean, I went through a whole thing where I couldn't go outside for a couple months, like at all.
Stephanie is a vampire.
I am. So I like really couldn't leave the house until it was after sunset.
Right.
So it was really motivating to write. And so I think for me, I was just like, but I just had to like shut everything. I was also shutting everything else off.
Right.
So it was really motivating.
I think the trick is somebody else asked, what do you do when you get stuck? This is my answer to that and the pandemic question too. You still have to sit down and try. Like you got to show up because I guarantee you're not going to write a book standing wherever. You got to be in front of wherever you write. If it's by hand or in front of your computer, you have to show up. And eventually your clock does shift. I was really happy when I had some stuff that had to be submitted that I was able to write. And it was the discipline is what saved me.
Yeah.
Like once your body knows what to do, when you have to, it will. At least it has for me.
Well, and for me, when I first like going back to even just thinking about it, because I'm forgetting things, but like when it first started,
it's been so long.
It has been so long. When it first started, and I was just like probably the same as like everyone else, and just like terrified and shell shocked. I signed up for Maestra class because I was I was having a hard time at first, so I was like, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
I didn't feel like reading. I was having a hard time focusing, so I was like, I'm gonna just watch these videos.
Right.
And so that was kind of like my thing that I did until I was able to start writing again.
And that reminds me of like another bit of advice I heard a million years ago when I first started writing books. You are. Is that I lost it.
Sorry.
No, we were distracted by the comment. What were you saying?
From Eliminate.
Oh, it's gone. But it was amazing advice, and we are all the poorer for having missed out on what I was going to say. All right. Oh, another question. Okay. Oh, I always think you guys can see it. I'm sorry. Do you know your ending at the start of writing or figure it out as you go? I never know when I first start, but I usually, when I've written, by the time I write that synopsis, so 6 or 7 chapters in, I have some idea of where I'm aiming for, and I don't make myself stick to that if I find a better route to go, as I'm discovering the world and the story and the characters all simultaneously. But yeah, I don't know. Do you know where you're going?
I know only like the feeling. Like I know what kind of feel I'm going for.
Right.
Like because
a romance novel ends very differently than whatever an adventure. They all have kind of a different.
So it's like I know what type I'm going for, but I don't always know exactly what happens. But I think for me, I like to know like, am I gonna have bittersweet? Am I gonna have happy?
Oh,
like, am I gonna have like a series ending or a wrap it up?
Which is different.
So I know the kind, but not what happens.
I don't know if Maddie's here. Maddie just finished reading Winter White and Wicked, and she has thoughts on the end, which I totally appreciate. I think like endings are tricky, period. Endings are tricky, and you want to make people, especially if it's like a series, you want someone to come back for more, but you don't always want to like give them a traditional cliffhanger. You want to wrap this main story up. You got to solve that story problem. So, endings are tricky. What do you hate? What do you like more, endings or beginnings? Writing.
Oh, I love writing the ending.
Okay, so you're ready because you've earned it.
Yeah, writings I usually do like my last 10,000 in like a day.
Okay,
and it takes me months to do my first 10,000.
Right. And we rewrite our first chapters about 400 times.
Yeah,
hi Maddie.
But I love by the time I get to the ending, like I love writing the ending.
I do, but I always think I'm ready to write the ending, and it's like, no, I have to have another scene. I can't because I'm not ready yet. You think you're ready, and then it's like, well, but we haven't set it all up yet. We have to. No one's all in the right place. I've got to get everyone. Okay, and then so it always feels like there's like one more scene.
I did that with this book, and then my editor was like, I think you need to cut it off. Like
you could just skip to the end.
No, I cut the ending.
Oh, really?
Because I had like ended it, and then I was like, oh, but I want another ending. Oh,
it was like Lord of the Rings. It had all the different endings.
It was just like all these things kept piling on, and she was like, no, I think it should actually end here. So I cut like the last like 7,000 words.
That's a good amount to cut.
But it works better.
Do you overwrite or underwrite normally?
Well, I think what it is there's certain things I underwrite.
Okay.
And certain things I overwrite.
You fill in. Right. Okay.
I underwrite character, I overwrite description. Right. When I'm first starting out, like figuring out like things. What about you?
I think initially, I think I'm an overwriter. And I think Shannon Hale has the absolute best quote on this that I'm going to butcher horribly, but she talks about how drafting is like you're just piling all the sand into the sandbox. And then when you're editing or revising, that's like when you get to build the castle, right? And so I think I'm just dumping a ton of sand into the sandbox all the time. And then when I go back, I love editing. Emily like knows, like editing's my favorite. If I can get the words on the page, I can do lots of stuff with them. But a blank page is intimidating to me. I don't know.
I'm just reading the comments and like how the beginnings are hard, and now I'm also very curious about the first sentence of Nevernight. Which you have to go. Really, funny. Okay, so I think
if you type it, then we'll all know.
Have time for maybe one or two more questions, and then we pick.
Oh, people want to know pronunciations. Hi, Donna Stinson. She was there when I was in youth group. She went to church with me. She lives across the country. So I'll give you some pronunciations here, but sometimes I have to correct myself. So, it's Begand, and it's Maestra. She asked how to pronounce Begand and Maestra. There's a lot of other words in there, and I have to just say this now because I just heard the prologue of my audiobook today by Jessie Valinsky. And if you like audiobooks, she is such a fantastic narrator. And so she's got the pronunciations. I think she has them all right. So if you're curious. Oh, look, I'm the first.
I know. Well, I have it at home, so I'm like that's like the first thing I'm gonna grab.
Where you go home and go be like, I'm gonna need you to text.
What does it say?
Oh, I can't answer that question. Somebody's asking how many books will be in the series. Yeah, I can't answer that question yet. Do you like to develop your characters or world more? I don't know what I think. To me, again, I'm discovering my characters and my world simultaneously. So if they have to feed each other, and I'm going to cut something that doesn't feed the other. You know what I mean? I very rarely keep something in the book that doesn't either move my plot forward, show off my character, or my world. I'm going to cut it. So mine all work together.
I think for me, it's not a matter of what I like more. It's like world's easier because I feel like I find that one thing I'm really excited about and build everything off of.
Right.
And with character, it's like finding what their core belief that like has formed them, and then like what their core wound is.
Right.
And I feel like I have to write the whole book before I figure that out. So character is really hard for me to figure out. And when I get it, I get really, really, really excited. And I think that's why revising is so much more fun because it's like, oh my gosh, they're finally working. But
right. Because like if I just change this and just change that. Yeah, absolutely.
But world just kind of, I'll find like one thing I'm really interested in and be like, and then it's all based on this one thing, like a game.
Right. Well, like for example, when I wrote in Broken Wings, which was, and actually I don't want to do these spoilers, but in winter, the Abaki, that's another word you're going to wonder about, but the Abaki were really developed in this way. But in my earlier series that I wrote, in my second book, Broken Wings, I realized after my first draft was done what the story was about. And then I created, in my revision process, I created like a rank of angels to reinforce that and to kind of show that imagery. And so I think sometimes first drafts, you're just trying to figure it out. You don't even know what you're saying, you know?
Well, and this kind of goes to a piece of advice. I don't know if Adrian's still on here, but Adrian Young, I've heard her say at the book events where like her piece of advice is just finish the book.
Right. No, yeah,
and
absolutely.
So I think like, and I do revise as I go, but I also think like if you're writing, just finish the book because you will figure out so much more.
And there's like that exhilaration, right? That adrenaline rush of getting to the end. Like I feel like you feel better that way.
Okay, we have 2 minutes left, so we should probably pick a winner.
What do we do? Oh, Constance! You pick a winner.
You pick a winner.
We know these people, so you pick someone we don't know, or that you know.
You
know what I mean?
Write a winter haiku and put it in the comments when we're done with the event, and we'll pick someone who has written a winter haiku.
Oh, so did you hear her? You have to write a winter haiku, put it in the comments.
No, let's make it more specific. A winter trucker fantasy haiku. Let's make it
winter trucker fantasy haiku.
That is a good one.
I actually remember doing an interview where somebody asked me to do a haiku, and I'm like, skip. I was so bad at it. I'm like, I don't even know.
I don't remember how to do them.
I'm like, wait, you have to tell me the beats. You guys can use Google. Google real quick.
Guys, you're getting a free book. I can't make it easy. Sorry.
So funny. So how will you tell them? Will you just notify them?
Yeah, I can let them know. We'll don't rush your haiku. You can have the night. We can come back on and look at the comments later. We'll We gotta make it challenging, and it has to be an homage to the book we're celebrating tonight.
I mean, it would
I
only
think that's really good.
We're gonna give you CARAVAL if you write a winter haiku.
A winter fantasy haiku.
Right.
To be very specific.
Right.
And if you need any inspiration, and if you buy it tonight, you get, I would never do this right. You get the whole pre-order gift. It's totally done and over. The pre-order campaign is done, except for people buying tonight. You get all the things. You just have to, do they have to email me, Constance, or are you going to tell me who bought things?
Are you sending us the posters, or?
No, I'll send it to them for you.
Oh! We'll email.
She'll email.
We'll email.
You buy stuff tonight, you get stuff. I don't have the bookmark, but that's
everybody. And I hate doing this, but alas, we are at our time, ladies and gentlemen. We are at our time, but I would like to end with one more question. And the question I have for you guys is, what are you currently working on? I know you may not be able to talk about stuff, and I know it's crazy to ask that, because you just had a book that comes out. As many of us know, ye old writing world, when a book comes out and when it is being written are two very different things.
That's very true. Are you working on? What's you working on?
I get to share. I was going to share a couple weeks ago, and then I was told to wait.
Publishers
I will be able to share. I will be able to share. There is a sneak peek of it.
I've seen
this book.
There's a lot of stuff in that book, you guys. A lot that you've never seen.
So not like
your haiku better be on point. Now there's more motivation.
It's from an early draft, so it might be a little different than like the finished one, but and this comes out before we're going to be announcing my new book. Right? But I'm working on a new book that will be out next year.
Which is so exciting. I can't talk about what I'm working on. I can tell you I have 2 projects going. One I'm waiting to hear back from, and 2 is is closer to like high fantasy than anything I've ever written, because apparently I can't write the same type of thing twice. I want to make life difficult on myself. So, but I mean, really, how many Iceberg Trekker books can I get away with?
Like, I think you get away with a lot.
I could do this series, right?
A lot.
I could do more in this series. I just don't know that I could come up with a whole nother trucker series. There would be way too many bloopers. You guys would be like, you don't know anything about trucks. What are you doing? So yeah.
You could do like seasonal ones, a winter, a summer.
Summer.
You could do summer time traveling one.
Shine and shimmer.
Time travel.
It's like Back to the Future, but a trucker version.
Yes, with aliens.
Oh!
And cannibals.
Don't forget the pirates. We can't forget the pirates after all either.
Well, I kind of have a pirate in this book. I feel like Mars is my pirate character. So if you've fallen in love with Mars yet, I think you will. Like, if you haven't just yet, you might. I mean, he's awful, but you might.
But favorite characters are normally who would be the worst people in books.
I mean, how many people were in love with the Darkling, right? Like, we were all confused by that one. It was very internal turmoil. It was rough.
We can't analyze it too much, but we will leave all of you with a very pleasant thought of why you're drawn towards horrible people in books. And we unfortunately are going to have to say good night to everyone. Shannon, Stephanie, this was beyond a pleasure getting to have you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Constance. You guys, Constance is amazing. If you have books out, contact Mysterious Galaxy. I've been booking events, and Constance by far made it easiest for me.
Well, it's easy to do good events with good authors, so the love goes both ways on that very, very much.
Thank you.
But yes, there is another panel coming up with Shannon. It's going to be a YA panel. Make sure to check out our calendar for that. It will be lots of fun as well. And we're going to go ahead and sign off. Let these ladies get some sleep or attempt to get some sleep. Right. And tomorrow we should check on the haikus. I am going to very kindly ask everyone in the comments section as Mysterious Galaxy, I'm going to try to thank you so much for attending. And if underneath that, if we could just have it be for people who want to enter for the book giveaway to make it to make it easy on our end of things, that would be beyond appreciated. And then I'll let them know. But thank you guys so much. Go buy this amazing book. Go. What are you thinking about? Just go do it. Look at how gorgeous it is. Look at the art print you get. It's amazing. And we will see all of you guys next time. Goodbye. Bye, Shannon.